Hello everyone, it's Tuesday, it's winning, it's live online. So good to be with you tonight. I hope you found the title of tonight's message as interesting as I did creating it for us tonight. And it's Take the Stairs. Really looking forward to this one. Hope you've got your winter wardrobe woolies out of the cupboard, because it's definitely, those of you who live in the Western Cape, it's definitely getting a lot cooler. So roll on autumn. Those of you who are new to this platform, my name is Debbie and I am the lead pastor of an amazing church, Hey Lexi, A City Church, which is in Kenilworth. Such exciting things happening at our church at the moment. So cool. Hey, King and Queen. And so, as always, please share tonight at the end of it for someone who you think really needs to hear the message, other than you, of course. And yeah, just kind of get yourself ready for tonight. As always, it's going to be challenging, definitely not entertaining, and just kind of clear your headspace. You know, this is your time. I'm sure you've all had a crazy busy time. I mean, it's a short week with Easter, Good Friday coming. What an awesome time to be celebrating on the Christian calendar the death and resurrection of Jesus. And we have amazing services. Good Friday will see a real experience around things like atonement and redemption and the light of Christ. And that's at 7 in the evening on Friday, and then 10 a.m. is Resurrection Sunday. And so if you're in the area and you don't have anywhere to go, we'd love to see you at our services. Hey Juliet, good to see you. So also during tonight's session, if something kind of just resonates with you, send me an emoji so that I can get a little bit of feedback. Because remember, you can see me, I can't see you. And just again, if you've missed any of these messages, you can go on to YouTube, and all of these messages are on YouTube for you to catch, pick up. And I'm really wanting to resource you. So use this. I mean, if I go back to, we've been doing this, gosh, for about 3 years. And it's such a good resource to build up. So, you know, again, if it's good, share it. And that's really what this is all about, because it's wanting to share when you catch something that's really helpful and meaningful to you. Share it with someone else. That's so important, because it's the process of multiplication. Hey, you benefit and then you give it to someone else to benefit. So are you ready for tonight? Clear your mind. This is your time. Focus, lean in, and let's look at taking the stairs. How many of you love taking stairs? Be honest. In fact, if I'm going to be honest, before I even ask you to be honest with yourself, if I'm honest, you know, I consider myself relatively fit, but stairs just get to me. It's like when I was coming out of chemo and treatment, walking was great, a slow run was great, the stairs would always get me. And on one of my runs, which is on Boys Drive in Kalk Bay, I pass Jacob's Ladder. Those of you who are Cape Townians, you'll know Jacob's Ladder. It's a 141 step stairway. And as I run past the top point of the stairway, I often think, wow, one day I'm going to do those 141 steps. It's 141 steps going all the way up the side of the mountain. And it's definitely not for the faint of heart. I'm honest, I haven't tackled it yet. I know quite a few people who have tackled it. But I've yet to actually walk it, and I'm going to. I want to conquer Jacob's Ladder. And so tonight, as we look at Take the Stairs, we often avoid stairs because, let's be honest, it's a lot of effort. You know, there's a lot of muscles that you use. Interestingly enough, we often use more muscles going down than what we do going up. But either way, it's a lot of effort. It takes a lot of stamina. It takes a lot of determination. And I think most times if there's a choice between the escalator, the elevator or the stairs, we'll lean toward escalator or elevator. I think sometimes the elevator is often full of people with trolleys and prams, so the escalator is the go-to. And I've learned over the years that God loves using the stairs. And I'm going to clarify this point, because God doesn't literally just go up and down stairs himself, but he often puts stairs before us. And I think he thinks they are better for us than using the elevator or the escalator. So let me explain what that means. As people, it's human nature to look for shortcuts. It's how can I get to where I want to be? How can I accomplish what I want to accomplish quickly, efficiently, and with the least amount of resistance? We often tempted to look for shortcuts in life. And again, it's human nature. And yeah, sometimes shortcuts appear to save time, but sometimes they don't always save time. You take a shortcut and it doesn't work out, and you've actually got to repeat the task, and it takes extra time, extra effort. Shortcuts don't always benefit us. I'm just thinking of a classic example, Jacob in the Bible. And for those of you who don't know, Jacob was given a promise. He had a twin brother, Esau. Jacob was the second born. He was the one who was holding the heel of his brother Esau. And Jacob was promised that he would be a leader of a great nation. God gave him that promise. But the shortcut he took, instead of taking the stairs, he took the elevator. And instead of waiting for God's timing, Jacob used cunning technique to steal Esau's birthright from him and tricked his dad into giving him the birthright instead of his brother Esau. Esau was the older brother. The birthright would go to the older first, and then it would go to the younger. The consequences of Jacob taking a shortcut, well, he had to leave home. And there was conflict, massive conflict between him and his twin brother. And Jacob literally fled for his life. And so, just looking at that example, if I can make a suggestion in life, take the steps, don't take the elevator. It can save a lot of time. Hey, Mom, that Mom's staying with us for a couple of weeks. That's just her passing in the background. It can save a lot of time and prevent a lot of heartache by not taking the shortcut. If Jacob had waited and done things the right way, things could have been so different. And what would have been the right way for Jacob? Well, I guess trusting in God's timing. So God had already revealed that the elder brother would serve the younger. He'd promised Jacob that. So in doing that, he indicated that the birthright would eventually come to Jacob. And so Jacob should have waited for God's leading, waited for God's direction, waited for God's timing. And in so doing, there wouldn't have been conflict between him and his brother. He wouldn't have had to have left home. He wouldn't have had to have run for fear of being killed by his brother. So if we look at, in this instance, doing it God's way, taking the stairs and not the elevator, you would have seen Jacob's character would have been developed. The Bible focuses on things like faith and perseverance and persistence and patience, integrity over cunning and deception. But, Jacob, in taking the shortcut, it cost him a lot. It just cost him a lot. So if we look at taking the stairs in life, not taking the shortcut, taking steps helps to build strength into our story that a lift or an escalator never could. Stairs will teach the value of the journey and the lessons in our progress. So don't waste months or years of your life trying to leap where you actually need to learn how to climb. Don't wish away your days. If you're waiting for something to happen, if you are in the process of, being grown and stretched by the Lord, don't wish the days away. I wish this was over. I wish this season was finished. Instead of doing that, actually take the time and effort to put in what God's asking you to put in. And maybe he's asking you to put in patience. Maybe he's asking you to put in resilience. Maybe he's asking you to put in a greater degree of faith. So instead of wishing time away and wishing this was finished, focus on, Lord, what are you wanting to teach me? God will always promote, bless, and bring favor his way. And his way is often not our way. Our way is often quick, short, sharp. And his way is often staircase way. And staircase way is step by successive step. It's not about jumping and skipping out steps. It's about taking each step, because each step that you take, you're developing what you need for what's coming. You know, the easy way out, going in the lift or going up the escalator, you're not developing anything at all. Nothing. You'll get to the top and nothing. There's nothing that's been stretched, nothing that's been grown, nothing that's been challenged. Think about it for a minute. Generally, anything premature doesn't work. Let's take the example of waiting for the kettle to boil. We bought a stovetop kettle recently, and the stovetop kettle, which we use gas, it takes longer than electric plug-in kettle to boil the water. And, you know, sometimes it can be infuriating when you want a quick cup of coffee. But the bottom line is there's nothing worse than cutting the boiling process because we want to take a shortcut and making coffee with half-boiled water. It tastes awful. But if you wait the duration of the heating process, the water is, because water that's held in a stovetop kettle is far hotter than water in an electric kettle. So the wait is worth it. But anything premature generally doesn't work. So to get really hot water, we have to take the stairs. So in taking the stairs, God can bring you to new landings you weren't expecting. There could be amazing opportunities at each of those levels. So as you get stronger and stronger, you're growing and learning, and your perspective is changing, and you see things differently, and you're being strengthened to overcome what you never thought you'd be able to overcome. Taking the escalator or the lift in life, that's not going to happen because there's no effort involved. It's just jump on and you just kind of sail through. No lessons being learned, no muscles being stretched, no challenges being overcome, and you just kind of get off at the top. That's not what it's all about. God's wanting us to reach our full capacity and reach our full potential, and that requires taking the steps. You know, sometimes as you climb the steps of situations, you're building new relationships. And it doesn't always have to be new relationships with people. Maybe you're building a new relationship with faith. You know, as you climb steps and as you kind of get exhausted and you start leaning into, I preached on Sunday about enabling grace, and you lean into God's equipping. And that teaches a number of things. It teaches faith, it builds capacity, and it shows you that I can move from functioning in the natural to functioning in the supernatural. You know, there's lots of things that you miss if you take the lift. The lift only has one direction. It goes from down to up or up to down. That's it, finished, the end of the story. So it's only got one direction. And often if we take shortcuts, we only have one direction perspective. Whereas if we're taking steps, it can be multifaceted in what we see. Multifaceted perspectives, because you're having to work. And in working, you get to look at things differently. If I think of where I am today at 60, to get to where I am, I had to take the steps. I mean, I started off building towards where I am now in the teaching field. And I was in the teaching field for 11 years, serving at the same time part-time in the church. And then I spent 5 years, probably 6 years of my life, in addition to 4 years at studying at Wits. I spent an additional 6 years studying theology, psychology. So for me to serve in my current capacity, I had to take the steps. If I'd have taken the elevator and just kind of gone from matric with nothing into where I am currently, full-time capacity serving, I don't think I'd have the level of wisdom I have. I don't think I'd have the level of experiential background that I have. I don't think I'd be able to do with God's assistance what I'm doing now. I had to take the stairs. And so there were no shortcuts. I could have taken shortcuts, but it wouldn't have benefited me, and certainly wouldn't have benefited people to whom the Lord allows me to minister. You see, a lift only teaches us how to press a button, which limits your own capacity. A lift decides the direction of the journey you're going to go on. And it limits who can get on into the lift and who can exit the lift without your approval. You know, you can't, when a lift stops on a certain floor, you don't have any say who's going to get on or off. And you know, if you think in life, if we take the shortcut, sometimes people come into our lives, and because we're so focused on taking a shortcut, the wrong people get access into our space. Whereas if you're working very hard and very intentionally at living, you're a lot more careful about who you allow into your space. With stairs, you can stop and start. You can potentially change direction. But in a lift, you're pretty much locked in to the direction that lift is moving in. So you're pretty restricted. So it looks like you're taking a shortcut, but there's serious limitations. Shortcuts bring with them limitations. Whereas taking the stairs in life and putting in the work and putting in the patience and putting in the perseverance, it's a lot more productive. For me, I'll be honest, I'm always in a hurry. And sometimes I'm too impatient to take the steps. It's like I've got so much to do, I'm just going to jump. And when I jump on the escalator, I'm actually walking up or down the steps. So I'm moving mechanically, but I'm also moving myself. Maybe some people are too lazy to take the steps. It's like, I couldn't be bothered with the effort. I'm just going to go in the elevator or in the escalator. So often we avoid taking steps in our life for the same reason. We don't want to put the work and effort into a relationship that the relationship requires. Relationships don't happen organically. Relationships happen intentionally. And that's our relationship with the Lord, our relationship with others. Sometimes we just couldn't be bothered putting in the time and effort to invest in something. And that could even be stuff for you. You know, you're not investing time in building your relationship with God. It's like, God, I'm just going to give you the leftover chump change of my time. Well, then you're not going to get a quality relationship with God. You know, time and experience teaches us that it's the elements of patience, perseverance, resilience that lead to the greatest achievements. If I think of running 2 oceans in 2024, I couldn't take shortcuts. If I took shortcuts, I would never have finished the 2 oceans. And it was tough. You know, like in the winter, like, what am I doing running? Like, this is so hard, but it built so much, and it was so worth the effort. It was so worth taking the steps in that particular exercise. So maybe tonight, as we kind of review what I've said, maybe you need to renew your commitment to taking those stairs in your life. You know, if you think about it, I've often seen lifts break down. I've never seen a step of stairs break down. Never, ever in my life. Stairs win every season. And so, I mean, let's look at another example. Let's look at Joseph. You know, Joseph's prophetic promise was fulfilled after a delay of about 22 years. So this time frame spans from the initial dreams that he had to the realization and the fulfillment of those. So in Genesis 37, he receives a dream where his brothers and his parents bow down to him. He experiences significant hardship from the dream and the prophetic dreams manifesting to the fulfillment of those prophetic dreams. I mean, he was sold into slavery. He was lied about. There was deception. He was thrown into prison. He was forgotten about. He was abandoned. But in all of it, he didn't take the elevator or the lift. He didn't take shortcuts. It was 17 years of hard training, 17 years of steps. And then we see the fulfillment of him having taken the steps. And that's where he's second in command over Egypt. It's where he is used by God to prevent his nation from being starved with the famine. It sees him being in a position of authority. It sees him being in a position of being trusted, being in a position of good leadership. He took the stairs. He didn't take the shortcut. And so I guess I'll see you on the stairs. You know, the path to growth is seldom linear. You know, we can't say, well, you know, I started my growth journey here and it was just straightforward to there. That's very seldom. In my years of experience, particularly in the counseling arena, I've very seldom seen linear growth like that. You know, growth is full of detours and setbacks and sometimes starting again. And so what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long it takes us to accomplish. It doesn't matter how long it takes us to reach our destination. What does matter? Are you moving? Are you moving forward? Are you moving? And are you moving in the right way, which is taking the stairs, not looking for shortcuts? So growth isn't a straight shot to the top. It's a winding with wrong turns and tough lessons and moments where you feel like, geez, man, I want to just quit. I want to get off of this. But every detour teaches you something. Now, I love Romans 8:28. All things will work together for the good of those who love him and who are called according to his purposes. For us as Christ followers, apparent setbacks are actually setups for breakthrough. And so every setback strengthens you. Keep going, even when the path doesn't look like you thought it would look. I would never have dreamed that I would have cancer twice and go through chemo and radiation twice. That was it never even entered my thinking. And you know what? That's okay, because I look at the transformation that's evolved as a result and taking the steps and looking at what God's doing and what he's done. And so I think, again, I'm going to say to you, I guess I'll see you on the stairs. I don't know where you are on the stairs. Maybe you're at the bottom, looking up at what you need to cover, accomplish, and you're just thinking, can't do this. Maybe you're halfway and you feel like giving up because it's like, I'm so exhausted, I don't know if I can go the rest of the way. It doesn't matter where you are on the stairs. What matters is, who are you talking to about it? And it's like, Lord, this is hard, but I'm trusting you and I'm leaning into you to do this, because I know, and I'm standing on your promise, good will come from this. I can get off. I can step away from the stairs. I can look at taking a shortcut, but I'm not going to grow and achieve what you've planned for me to achieve. I love how Psalm 23, even though I go through the valley of the shadow, you know, he's with you. He's on the other side of what you're experiencing. And on the other side of what you're experiencing is always victory. Maybe not the way you would have thought, but there's always victory, because God says, I've come that you might have life and have lots of it. And so don't give up. You know, sometimes we wipe the perspiration from our brow with the towel, or maybe we throw the towel in. And you know what? God throws that towel right back at you and he says, come on, let's do this. So my prayer for you tonight is, don't give up, don't give in, one step at a time. Don't look at the whole stairway. If I stand at the bottom of Jacob's ladder and I look up at 141 steps, it's going to look pretty daunting. Just focus on the step that's in front of you. Lord, give me the strength to do the step in front of me. Because when you've done the step in front of you, you gain enough strength, resilience to then do step number 2. Because by the time you get to step number 22, you've got the strength to then go up to step number 23. But you can't stand on step 1 and expect to just have the strength to get to step 23 without walking the journey. Walk the journey. Trust God. Lean into his enabling grace and win. Because remember, we're called to be more than overcomers. And so, as always, hope that tonight has encouraged you. Take out one thing that you're going to apply. Take out one thing that you feel will equip you towards living a winning life, even when your life doesn't quite look like you thought it would look. That's okay, because God's over all, through all, and in Him all things hold together. Can't wait to see you next week, same time, same place. Have an awesome Easter. Use this week to prepare yourself for the Easter weekend. Like, really draw your focus on the Lord. Really get to a place where you absorb the enormity of what Jesus did by giving up His whole life for you, and then keeping every prophetic promise by being raised on day number 3. Hopefully I'll see you at church Friday 7 p.m, Sunday 10 a.m. Bye everyone, see you next time.